What are the learning objects of today's class? First of all, we have to know about the total body water distribution. Total body water distribution, what are the compartments, and what is normal body water balance, along with electrolytes and their distribution and their role in maintaining the water balance or fluid balance. And at the last, we will learn about the processes involved in maintenance of water balance and disorders associated with imbalance. Okay. Body's content is 60 to 70% made up of water. Okay. So, in an adult person of 70 kg weight, how much will be water? 60 to 70%. Okay. And this water content changes with age. So, in case of newborn, where the percentage lies around 75%, with age it decreases, and in older individuals the body water percentage decreases to 50%. Okay. And in our whole body, brain is mostly made up of water other than blood. Right? So what are the importance or functions of water? Today's class is more or less like a revision class. Okay. So water is a medium in which the body solutes, organic and inorganic, are dissolved and metabolic reactions take place. We all know this, whether it is cytoplasm, whether it is mitochondria, whether it is plasma, everything is composed of water. And all the organic, inorganic metabolites, they are dissolved in the water. Water acts as a vehicle for transport of solutes, right? Via blood, via lymph, everything via urine. The solutes are transported by water medium. Next, in many chemical reactions, water is a part of substrate or product. So water itself is used and produced in many metabolic reactions of our body. Next, the subcellular structural stability and activities of various enzymes are also dependent on the cell hydration, as the medium is required for the reactions. Chemical reactions are the medium is aqueous medium. That is why the dehydration may affect various enzyme reactions and cell structure also. Okay. Other than those, water is involved in regulation of body temperature, right? By sweating, body releases excess heat, and it also acts as lubricant in different parts to prevent friction, such as in joints, pleura, peritoneum and conjunctiva. So all of these are various functions or importance of water. So next is excretion of toxic substances via urine. Urine is nothing but water that is filtered through our kidneys containing the excretory products. Now, a deficiency and an excess of water is related to impairment of tissue and organ functions. So all of the functions I have told, whether it is the medium for the reactions to take place, whether to transport the solutes, whether it is the chemical reactions where water itself is a substrate or water is produced, and to maintain the subcellular structures and activity of enzymes, everything is dependent on water, along with the body temperature regulation and lubrication of various joints, pleura, peritoneum and conjunctiva, along with the removal of toxic substances via urine. Okay, and not to forget about the digestion. digestion of our food, water is most important. Now coming to total body water and its distribution. So total body water means the total body content, water content of our body. So which includes both the water inside and outside the cell. Okay, so cells are composed of organelles and cytosol. In cytosol or in the organelles there is also water. So the water, total body water includes both the inside and outside of cell water. Okay, and also the water present in GI tract and genitourinary tract. Clear? So including everything is known as total body water. Now it can be divided into two major compartments. That is intracellular water and extracellular water. Intracellular water means what I told now, that the cytosolic water or the water inside the organelles, cell organelles. And extracellular means anything outside the cell membrane. Anything outside the cell membrane. So look at this picture. These are the cells. So any water content within the cell is intracellular, whereas anything outside of this membrane, cell membrane, will be known as extracellular water. So here outside the cells, what is this? This is interstitial space. So this part contains water which is known as interstitial fluid. Okay, and whatever is in the vessels, is intravascular fluid or plasma. Okay, so extracellular fluid contains intravascular and extravascular. That is intravascular, that is plasma, extravascular, that is interstitial fluid. Clear to everybody? Total body water can be divided into two major compartments. One is intracellular, another is extracellular. The extracellular compartment consists of interstitial space and vessels. So the water in the interstitial space will be known as interstitial fluid, and the water in the vessels will be known as intravascular fluid or water. How the volume is distributed. So we learned about the compartments. Now we have to know the distribution of each compartment. So in an adult of 70 kg, total body water will be about 42 liter, 60 to 70%. If I take the minimum cutoff, that is 42 liter. Okay, 60% of the total body weight is water. So in a 70 kg person, 42 liter waters will be there. Right? Now how much will be intracellular and how much will be extracellular? So majority lies in the intracellular part. 2/3 of total body water, will be in intracellular part. Okay, so 28 liters will be within the cells, whereas only 14 liter will be extracellular. Okay, so among the extracellular 14 liter, the distribution is as such: the 3.5 liter will be in plasma or intravascular. Okay, so intravascular means, what is plasma? What is plasma? Durable. Intravascular. But what is plasma? The cell-free part of blood. Taito, what is the total volume of blood in our body? 5 liter around. So, in 5 liter of total blood, 3.5 liter is plasma, water. The other 1.5 liter consists of the cell volume. Boja geche? And 10.5 liter is in interstitial space or extravascular. The cells are immersed in this fluid, 10.5 liter of interstitial fluid in all the tissues. According to their function, the water contents change in organs. Okay, so most amount of fluid is present in brain. Brain is suspended in CSF, and all other tissues are contain extracellular fluid in form of interstitial water or interstitial fluid. Clear? So this is the distribution, overall distribution of total body water. So here, if total body water is 42 liter, extracellular will be 14, intracellular will be 28, that is 1/3 and 2/3. And this everything will be intracellular, whereas extracellular is divided into plasma and interstitial. 3.5 liter of average plasma and 10.5 liter of interstitial fluid. Clear? Okay. Now, what are the factors affecting distribution of water? So, why this compartmentalization and how this compartmentalization is maintained? So, there are two important factors, main two important factors that influence the distribution of water between intracellular and extracellular compartment. Read the lines carefully, intracellular and extracellular compartments. Okay, so intracellular is major fluid. 2/3 of the total body water is in intracellular space. What will happen if imbalance occurs? Either cell will swell or shrink. Okay, so the factors maintaining this barrier or the factor that maintaining the equilibrium are osmolality or osmolarity and colloidal osmotic pressure. Okay, in both extracellular and intracellular fluid, the difference between osmolality and osmotic pressure, they determines the water content of that compartment. Okay, so what is osmolality or osmolarity? Osmolality is measure of solute or number of solute present in fluid medium, whereas osmolarity is number of moles per liter of solution, and it is osmolality is number of moles per kg of solvent. Okay, and osmolarity is moles per liter of solution. Okay, so here osmolarity is expressed as number of moles or millimoles of solute per liter of solution. How many moles of solute are there in a liter of solution? That is osmolarity. And osmolality is number of moles of solute per kilogram of solvent, not the solution. Okay. So osmolality, by osmolality we mainly express the electrolytes. Okay. Now, how to calculate plasma osmolality? Plasma osmolality, as this is mainly dependent on the electrolytes, the equation is 2 into sodium concentration plus 2 into potassium concentration plus urea concentration plus glucose concentration. Okay. And this is in milliosmoles per kg. So the normal value of plasma osmolality is 285 to 295. This is plasma osmolality. Okay, where this is contributed mainly by sodium. What is the plasma sodium concentration? 135 to 145. And the predominant electrolyte in intracellular fluid is potassium. So the osmolality of intracellular fluid is maintained by potassium. So what happens? This there is no net difference in osmolality. There will be no net difference of osmolality or number of moles or osmoles, okay, millimoles, moles in intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid. We have studied in our sodium potassium balance or electrolyte balance that the total number of anions plus cations in extracellular fluid is equal to the total number of anions plus cations in extracellular fluid. And this is not only related to electrical charge, this is also related to the osmoles and the osmotic pressure. Okay, so now coming to osmotic pressure. Osmotic pressure is the force that tends to move water from dilute solutions to concentrated solutions. So what happens if the osmolality changes? Dilution changes. So water will travel from dilute part to concentrated part, leading to disturbance of water balance. Okay, and it is directly proportional to the concentration of osmotically active particles in that solution. What I told right now, that the cations and anions or the electrolytes, they don't only express the charge, they also exert the osmotic pressure on the fluids or the compartments. So the total number of osmotically active particles in intracellular fluid is equal to total number of osmotically active particles in extracellular fluid. That is why the balance is maintained. So that is written here, effective osmotic pressure of a solution depends on total number of solute particles in solution and permeability characteristics of the particular membrane. Okay, so not only on the solutes, also the membrane matters. It should be permeable to the particles, solute particles. In a normal person, the osmotic pressure of extracellular fluid, that is mainly due to sodium, is equal to osmotic pressure of intracellular fluid, which is mainly due to potassium ions. Clear? যা বললাম আগে সেটাই এখানে লেখা আছে. Due to this osmotic equilibrium, there is no net movement of water in or out of the cell. So in an ideal condition, the net osmotic pressure of ECF will be equal to the net osmotic pressure of ICF, and that is because of the concentration of sodium and potassium respectively in extracellular and in intracellular part. And because of this, there will be no water exchange in or out of the cell. Now what will happen if a solution with osmotic pressure higher than plasma, that will be known as hypertonic or hyperosmotic. Hypertonic, if there is a term as hypertonic, that is hyperosmotic. Okay, so where the osmolality is higher than the plasma, it is related to plasma. Isotonic is same osmolality solution with plasma. Hypotonic is where the solution have osmotic pressure less than those of plasma. Clear? So the term isotonic, hypotonic, hypertonic is related to the osmolality of plasma. When the osmolality of any solution is equal to plasma, that will be known as isotonic. Iso means same, tonic, tonicity. Okay, osmolality will be same. When there is hyperosmotic solution, that will be known as hypertonic. When there is hypoosmolar solution, that will be known as hypotonic. Clear? Now the second factor, that is colloidal oncotic pressure. Colloidal oncotic pressure কাকে বলছে? Within the extracellular fluid. Now come to the extracellular fluid compartment. Extracellular fluid compartment can further be divided into which two compartments? Interstitial and intravascular. ছবিটা মনে কর, সেল ছিল, interstitial space ছিল, আর কি ছিল? ভেসেল ছিল. So the fluid inside the vessel intravascular and extravascular is interstitial. So in extracellular fluid, the distribution of water between intravascular and extravascular compartment depends on colloidal osmotic pressure exerted by plasma proteins. and this is also called as oncotic pressure. So colloidal osmotic pressure is exerted by the plasma proteins present in intravascular space. Plasma proteins are immersed in plasma. Plasma is within the vessel. It is intravascular. So plasma exerts the oncotic pressure of plasma proteins, and that helps in maintaining the distribution of water between intravascular and extravascular fluid. So in case of plasma protein normal level, this balance is maintained. When plasma proteins are less, what will happen? The oncotic pressure of intravascular space will fall, leading to movement of water from intravascular to extravascular. So decreased plasma protein will lead to decreased plasma oncotic pressure. That will lead to movement of water from intravascular space to extravascular space. তাই তো? কি বলা হলো এর আগে? কোন দিকে ওয়াটার মুভ করে? From diluted portion to concentrated portion. So if plasma proteins are decreased in concentration, that will lead to relative dilution of plasma, whereas extracellular space will be of high oncotic pressure. So fluid from intravascular space or vessels will move out to the interstitial space, leading to edema. বোঝা গেছে? Why there is edema in hypoproteinemia or hypoalbuminemia? Clear? Okay, now normal water balance. বোঝা গেছে তো এর আগে পর্যন্ত? So what are the compartments, how the distribution occurs, and what are the factors affecting the distribution of total body water. Now coming to normal water balance. How the balance is, what is the balance? So body water is maintained within the fairly constant limits by regulation between intake and output. So we intake water and simultaneously water output also happens. So average daily water turnover in adult is approximately 2.5 liter. Okay, 2.5 liter. Now this range of water turnover means input and output. They are more or less same. This depends on intake volume, environment and activity of individuals. Okay, so look at this chart. Daily intake of water ml per day or liter per day. So and this is daily output of water. Okay, so look at the headings. This is the environment or the activity, that is normal, hot environment and strenuous work. So in case of normal scenario, daily water intake will be, drinking water is more or less 1 liter, 1.2 liter, 1.5 liter accordingly. Water from food, that is around 1 liter. Water from oxidation or metabolic water. Okay, water produced in various chemical reactions or metabolic pathways. So that is 300 ml. So the total will be around 2.5 liter of water intake. Okay, in normal condition. In hot environment, what happens? The amount of thirst increases and it will lead to more intake, whereas the water from food is more or less same and water of oxidation or metabolic water is also same. So here we can see the intake is increased. Okay, now look at the strenuous work part. Here drinking water intake is much more, 3.4 liter around, and the water from food is also high. So and metabolic water is also high. Okay, which makes it total of 5 liter. Now you can say that, ma'am, you told that the water turnover is around 2.5 liter. But now look at the output also. Look at the output part also. So in case of normal environment, the urine output will be 1.4, 1.5 liter per day. Okay. Whereas in hot environment, the urine production decreases. And in case of strenuous work, the urine production further decreases. Whereas the drinking water part was very high. তাহলে কোথায় যাচ্ছে extra amount of water টা? Look at the insensible water loss. Insensible water loss happens through lung and skin with our respiration and perspiration. Okay, so this is around 400 each. Here in hot environment the respiration becomes drier. Okay, so it is more or less 400 and 300. Here it is 400 and 600. In case of strenuous work, the respiratory water loss increases somewhat. Now look at the sweat part, that is sensible water loss. Sensible water loss or sweat, in normal condition it is very less. In hot environment the sweat is approximately 1.4 liter. 1.4 liter of sweat, and in case of strenuous work it increases up to 3.3 or 3 liter, 3.5 liter. Now the gastrointestinal water loss with stool is fixed more or less 200 ml. Now look at the total output of normal environment, that is 2.5 liter. Look at the total of hot environment, it is 3.5 liter, whereas in strenuous work it is 5 liter. So for each individual groups the input and output is same. In normal condition a person was taking 2.5 liter of water daily and his output water total output is also 2.5 liter, whereas in hot environment it is intake is up to 3.5 and the output is also 3.5 liter, and for strenuous work 5 liter and 5 liter. Why I am emphasizing on the volumes and all? Because if the condition changes and input and output is not maintained, that will lead to imbalance. Okay. Now coming to electrolytes, you know this part, I will not go into details of electrolytes, just a quick revision. Electrolytes are inorganic substances that are readily dissolved into positively charged cations and negatively charged anions in a solution. Okay, so they are expressed in milliequivalent per liter. These are the primary electrolytes: sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, chloride, bicarbonate and phosphate. So how these electrolytes are distributed? The total concentration of cations and anions in each compartment is equal to maintain electrical neutrality. Okay, so electrolytes means they are divided into electrically charged particles, either positive or negative. So the balance is maintained between ICF and ECF of total concentration of cations and anions. Sodium is the principal cation of extracellular fluid, whereas potassium is the principal cation of intracellular fluid. Okay, chloride and bicarbonate are the principal anions of extracellular fluid, whereas phosphate is the principal anion intracellularly. So look at the distribution of electrolytes in different fluid compartments. এটা আগেও পড়ানো হয়েছে যখন সোডিয়াম পটাশিয়াম ব্যালেন্স পড়ানো হয়েছে, but why this is again important? Because it helps in maintenance of water balance also. So look at the plasma part. We all know sodium is the main cation extracellular, so that in plasma and in interstitial fluid, in both the cases sodium concentration is much higher, right? Compared to intracellular concentration. Clear? Look at the pink part, that is sodium. Okay, now potassium, extracellular potassium is very low, whereas intracellular potassium is very high. Okay, now coming to the anions, that is chloride. Chloride is high, chloride and bicarbonate is high in extracellular part, whereas in intracellular part there is phosphate and proteins. Okay, proteins and phosphate. So what will be the conclusion, that is the total of these extracellular plasma and intracellular plasma cations and anions will be same, will be equal. So look at this. Extracellular fluid cations and anions both are same. In intracellular fluid, cations and anions, total of cations and anions, there will be no electrical charge. Intracellular and extracellular compartmenter moddhe there will be no electrical charge difference. Okay, hoyeche বোঝা গেছে? Now they have important role not only in electrical neutrality, also in osmotic pressure and water and acid balance. These are the plasma concentration of sodium, potassium and chloride. Now, you know the altered sodium level is known as, if it is increased, it is hypernatremia. I will not go into details, and these are the causes. Okay, these are the causes of hypernatremia. Just remember the term hypernatremia, and these are the causes. Hypernatremia is increased sodium concentration. Hyponatremia is fall of sodium concentration below 135, and these are the causes. আগেই পড়ানো হয়ে গেছে, এগুলো আমি কিন্তু আর ডিটেইলসে বলবো না। Okay, now coming to hyperkalemia. Hyperkalemia is where the potassium level is increased, and the symptoms could be as such: paralysis, bradycardia, cardiac arrest, and these are the causes of hyperkalemia. Hypokalemia, low potassium concentration in plasma, and these are the causes. Okay, and chloride mainly follows the sodium. So whatever will be the hypernatremia causes will be similar to hyperchloremic causes or situations. Now, why electrolytes are important in water balance? So, and how they are regulated. So, water and electrolyte balance, they are regulated together. Okay, there is no individual regulation of water and electrolytes. Both are simultaneously regulated in same mechanism. And what are the mechanisms? First of all, it is hypothalamic mechanism controlling thirst. Okay. Second comes the antidiuretic hormone or ADH or vasopressin. These are the regulatory factors of water and electrolyte balance. First is hypothalamic mechanism or hypothalamic axis. Next is ADH or vasopressin. Next comes renin-angiotensin aldosterone system, also known as RAS. Okay. Next, atrial natriuretic factor or natriuretic peptides, and kidney. So all of the factors, they are responsible for overall body water and electrolyte balance. So now look at the hypothalamic regulation. How hypothalamus regulates water balance? This is water balance regulation. So water balance is a equilibrium condition. So in case of imbalance, what can happen? Either there will be deficit of water or there will be over water or excessive water. So in case of water deficit, when water is deficit, what happens? Increase in plasma osmolarity. Is it true? So low water is deficit. So plasma osmolarity or osmolality will increase. তাই তো? ওয়াটার কমে গেছে, কনসেন্ট্রেশন বেড়ে গেছে, রিলেটিভলি অসমোটিক প্রেসার বেড়ে গেছে, অসমোলারিটি বেড়ে গেছে, and that will stimulate osmoreceptors in hypothalamus. Okay, so osmotic pressure or osmolarity of plasma, they affect the osmoreceptors. There are osmoreceptors in hypothalamus. So osmoreceptors are stimulated, they can be stimulated or inhibited by osmolarity of plasma. When there is increase in plasma osmolarity, the osmoreceptors will be stimulated. Whereas in excess water, the plasma osmolarity will fall or decrease. So there will be excess amount of water in the vessels, leading to fall of plasma osmolarity. So plasma osmolarity fall kore gele osmoreceptors will be inhibited. Look at this part. Okay, so inhibition of osmoreceptor, here stimulation of osmoreceptors in hypothalamus. Now osmoreceptor এর কাজ কি? Osmoreceptor এর প্রথম কাজ হচ্ছে to increase or to decrease thirst. Okay, this is the easiest mechanism. We can drink water. If body sense water loss, we can drink water, and that is because of this stimulation from osmoreceptors. So thirst will increase, free water intake will increase, and the plasma osmolarity will be restored. What happened in excess water? Thirst will be inhibited or decreased. Okay, leading to very low or decreased free water intake, and that will also lead to restored plasma osmolarity in case of excess water. Okay, and the second pathway is this stimulation of osmoreceptor will further stimulate the secretion of ADH from posterior pituitary. তাই তো? So hypothalamus থেকে তো pituitary তে signal যাবে, তারপরে ADH বেরোবে, and what is the signal? That is plasma osmolarity. Plasma osmolarity will stimulate, increased plasma osmolarity will stimulate the osmoreceptors, and from there stimulation will go, positive stimulation will go to posterior pituitary for the secretion of ADH. ADH is antidiuretic hormone. Diuresis means excess urine formation. Antidiuretic means decreases the urine formation. So antidiuretic hormone will increase reabsorption of free water by kidney. Antidiuretic, always remember from the name. Diuresis means excessive urine formation. Antidiuretic hormone, it decreases the diuresis. Anti-action of diuresis, that is decrease urine formation, and that helps in restoring the free water by kidney, leading to excretion of small volume of concentrated urines. So in case of water loss, there will be small volume of concentrated urines. So if you remember this, দেখতে পাচ্ছিস normal condition এর থেকে strenuous condition এ hot environment এ why urine formation is low? তাই তো? Because ADH acts to restore the excess water from kidney. Okay, and in case of excess water, there will be inhibition of osmoreceptor in hypothalamus, and that will decrease thirst first of all. Secondly, it will decrease the secretion of ADH from posterior pituitary. Absence or small amount of ADH will lead to diuresis. No ADH means diuresis. Diuresis means excretion of large volume of dilute urine, leading to water balance or maintaining the plasma osmolarity. Clear? Clear to everyone? Function of ADH? Hypothalamic regulation. হয়েছে? বোঝা গেছে? Next comes thirst. Thirst, what is the importance? It is, I told you, it is the most important factor in maintaining normal fluid balance. It is a physiological activity, and whenever there is loss or excess of fluid in our body, thirst is regulated as per the condition. So in case of 1% increase in osmolarity, it also causes thirst, and the volume depletion of 5% will stimulate thirst. Lack of access to water and poor thirst is a major cause of hypernatremia. Now what is hypernatremia? Increase of sodium concentration, and that may occur in dehydrated condition. Thirst contributes to hyponatremia in fluid loss, edematous stage triggered by low intravascular volume. So now if thirst is raised, it will lead to excess water intake and may cause hyponatremia. Okay. Now the hormones regulating water balance. So that was hypothalamic regulation. Now coming to hormonal regulation. Hormonal regulation is maintained by aldosterone, renin-angiotensin system, antidiuretic hormone, and natriuretic peptides. Okay, what is aldosterone? It is a mineralocorticoid synthesized from renal cortex, and it causes the sodium reabsorption from renal tubules. Okay, so in sodium potassium I showed this image. So in DCT and the last part of loop of Henle, aldosterone acts also in collecting tubules to retain the sodium. What is happening here? The majority sodium, whatever is filtered out, is 90 to 95%. Sodium and potassium is reabsorbed in proximal part, whereas the remaining part is reabsorbed in loop of Henle and DCT. Okay, so and this is mediated by aldosterone. So whenever there is reabsorption of sodium, it is associated with reabsorption of water also. বোঝা গেছে? So aldosterone not only helps in sodium reabsorption, it helps in water retention also, water reabsorption also. And look at this thing, potassium is excreted along with reabsorption of sodium. ঠিক আছে? So sodium potassium balance is maintained here in DCT and collecting tubules by aldosterone. Okay, so this is the role of aldosterone. And why it is important in water balance? Because when sodium is reabsorbed, water is also reabsorbed along with the sodium ions. Now, what is renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system? So next is renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. So look at this part. Any drop in BP or blood pressure, drop in blood pressure, it could be because of what could be the cause of low blood pressure? Dehydration, loss of water, loss of plasma volume in vessels. So any drop of BP could lead to secretion of renin from kidney. Okay, so renin from kidney will act on angiotensinogen from liver to produce angiotensin 2. Okay, so now angiotensin 2 is produced in liver with the help of renin and angiotensin converting enzyme that comes from lungs. Okay, so angiotensin 2 now acts on 3 different parts of body to maintain the water balance and to elevate BP. The final goal is to elevate BP as there is drop in BP. Okay, so how BP will be elevated? First of all, there will be stimulation to hypothalamus for thirst. Okay, drop in BP, loss of plasma volume will lead to production of renin that will help in conversion of angiotensinogen of liver to angiotensin 2 with help of angiotensin converting enzyme which comes from lungs. And then it acts on 3 different parts. First of all, brain, then heart and kidney. So how in hypothalamus? You all know that hypothalamus there is a thirst center and it can stimulate the production of ADH, and by increasing water intake and retention of water from urine will lead to increased extracellular fluid volume, and thus BP can be elevated. This part. Now what happens in heart? There will be vasoconstriction. Okay, so vasoconstriction means constriction of the vessels, and if there is low plasma volume and constriction of vessels, BP will be maintained. Okay, next, this will also lead to elevation of BP, and next comes to adrenal cortex. So angiotensin 2 lastly acts on kidney adrenal cortex for the release of aldosterone, which acts on kidney and helps in salt and water retention. So this is a complex mechanism where renin, angiotensin and aldosterone, this is the axis, renin, angiotensin, aldosterone axis. Okay, which helps in water retention, and finally here the stimulating factor is drop in BP, fall in BP, and to elevate the BP this axis acts to retain salt and water. বোঝা গেছে? Is it clear? Now ADH. ADH তো বলে দিয়েছি, antidiuretic hormone also known as vasopressin. Because of high plasma osmolality stimulates the osmoreceptors of hypothalamus, and hypothalamus causes the release of ADH from posterior pituitary, which leads to reabsorption of water and sodium in DCT and collecting duct. আচ্ছা, কি বাকি থাকলো? natriuretic peptides. Natriuretic peptides are polypeptide hormones which is secreted from our heart. Okay, there are three types of natriuretic peptides. Atrium natriuretic peptide, they are secreted from the myocytes of atrium. BNP, this is B type natriuretic peptide, and this is C type, CNP, A, B, C. Okay, so atrial natriuretic peptide was discovered first, that was named accordingly atrial natriuretic peptide. Then the ventricles also release some natriuretic peptides, they are named as B type, and vascular endothelium, they also produce another type of natriuretic peptide, that is named as C type natriuretic peptide. So how are they secreted? When they are stimulated, when these cells are stimulated by increased cardiac stretch, when they are stretched, atrium is stretched, then the myocytes release natriuretic peptides. So, and same similar with ventricles and other vascular endothelium. So in case of high BP or volume overload, okay, so whenever there will be high BP or volume overload, that will lead to stretching of cardiac chambers, leading to release of this ANP, BNP and CNP. So what they do, they increase sodium loss. Okay, natriuretic, natri comes from sodium, তাই তো? Hyponatremia, hypernatremia. Natriuretic, uretic means released with urine. Natriuretic, sodium is released with urine. So natriuretic peptides, very easy. If you remember, natri comes from sodium, uretic means to release with urine. Okay, so natriuretic peptides lead to increased sodium loss in urine, along with increased water excretion or diuresis. Whenever there is sodium excretion, it will be associated with water excretion, water loss. So there is volume overload, we need to reduce the plasma volume, so there will be increased sodium loss with increased water excretion. Okay, and natriuretic peptides, they inhibit the renin-angiotensin aldosterone axis. Okay, so renin-angiotensin aldosterone axis was helping in salt and water retention. If this is inhibited, there will be loss of salt and water, leading to lowering down the BP. Okay, and also natriuretic peptides, they also cause vasodilation of the blood vessels. Okay, so once they are stretched, natriuretic peptides are secreted and they stimulate to dilation, okay, vasodilation of the vessels. So whenever there is hypoosmolality, there will be hyponatremia. Right? In case of isoosmolar, the solution will be isotonic. In case of hypoosmolality, there will be hyponatremia. Hypoosmolality will cause swelling of cells, wherever the hyperosmolality will cause dehydration or shrinkage of cells. Fatigue and muscle cramps are common symptoms of electrolyte imbalance. Now, what are the disorders of water and electrolyte imbalance? Okay, so disorders are mainly dehydration and overhydration. So what is dehydration? Dehydration is a state in which loss of water exceeds the intake. ঠিক আছে, আমি যে চার্টটা দেখিয়েছিলাম, in that chart I showed that the intake and output in any particular condition is similar, remains similar, whether the environment change, whether the physical activity change, but the input and output remains similar. But whenever there is a mismatch in input and output, mainly whenever the intake is low than the loss, this will lead to dehydration and body will go into negative water balance. Dehydration are of two types. Dehydration is of two types. One is simple dehydration. In simple dehydration, there is only loss of water, whereas there could be combined deficiency of water and electrolyte leading to combined dehydration. Okay. So in case of simple dehydration, it is the decrease in total body water with relatively normal total body sodium. Okay, total body sodium. So there will be only loss of total body water. It may result from failure to replace obligatory water loss, that is sweating, urination and respiratory loss. Failure to replace. Okay, failure to replace means intake is much less. Or failure of regulatory mechanisms that promotes conservation of water by the kidneys. Simple dehydration can be associated with hypernatremia. Once here I told that it is associated with relatively normal total body sodium. Total body sodium, not plasma concentration. Whenever there will be loss of just water, that will lead to increase the concentration of relative concentration of sodium and other electrolytes, so that will lead to hypernatremia. Increased in extracellular water osmolarity because water balance is negative and sodium balance is normal. Now, dehydration due to combined water and sodium deficiency. In this case, what happens? Water balance may be negative, equal or less than sodium balance, because along with water, sodium is also lost. Whenever there is more negative water balance than sodium, it will be resulting in hypernatremia. When the water loss is equal to sodium loss, it will result as isomolar or normonatric. When there is less water loss than sodium loss, that will be hyponatremic. Okay, causes of dehydration due to water and sodium deficit. So where we may find hypernatremic dehydration? Excessive sweating if free water intake is inadequate. So in case of sweating, sodium is also lost and water is also lost. In case of water and food deprivation, okay, diuretic therapy if again water intake is inadequate. What happens in diuretic therapy? Sodium is also excreted and water is also, excessive water is also excreted. Osmotic diuresis with glycosuria. In case of glycosuria, what will happen? Excessive water will go out with glucose, with urine, than sodium. Okay, so this will lead to hypernatremic dehydration. What are the causes of normonatremic or isotonic dehydration? Maybe vomiting and diarrhea. Whatever we face in our day-to-day life. Okay, the dehydration হয়ে গেছে, কি করে dehydration হয়ে গেছে? Vomiting হয়েছে, diarrhea হয়েছে. So there will be equal amount of loss of sodium and water, resulting in normonatric. Hyponatremic or hypotonic dehydration. This is a situation where water loss is not that much regarding the sodium loss, where the sodium loss is more. It is salt wasting renal disease like adrenocortical insufficiency, Addison's disease, diuretic therapy if free water intake is excessive. Okay, and in case of excessive sweating also. So what are the symptoms of dehydration? Intense thirst, mental confusion, fever, oliguria, that is decreased urine output. These are the symptoms for simple dehydration, whereas dehydration combined deficiency will show wrinkled skin, dry mucous membrane, muscle cramp, shrunken eyeball, increased blood urea nitrogen, along with increasing severity may cause weakness, hypotension, and hypotensive shock may also occur in case of dehydration. So how to find? These are pictorial representation. Okay, so what is the treatment? What should be the treatment? Treatment of simple dehydration, that is, we can ask the patient to drink plenty of water. If oral administration is not possible, isotonic solution of 5D can be given intravenously. Okay, and in case of combined deficiency of water and electrolyte, isotonic solution of sodium chloride, that is normal saline, can be given IV. Okay. Now overhydration. What is overhydration? That is water intoxication. That is simply opposite of dehydration. When there is excessive water intake, not only intake rarely results in overhydration. Why? Because our body is so tuned to excrete large volume of urine whenever there is large volume of water ingestion. So what will be the causes? In case of renal failure, in case of excessive fluids parenterally, means intravenous fluid, excessive fluid given, if they can lead to water intoxication. And another thing, that is hypersecretion of ADH. ADH is antidiuretic hormone, leads to retention of water in our body, and that situation is known as syndrome of inappropriate ADH secretion, also known as SIAD. Okay, so this is a condition where body can face overhydration or water intoxication. So what will be the symptoms of overhydration? So there will be acute fall of serum sodium because of overhydration, hyponatremia, acute hyponatremia will be there, leading to nausea, vomiting, headache, muscular weakness, confusion, seizures. In case of severe cases, convulsion, coma, and even death may occur. Okay, clear? বোঝা গেছে সবাই? So কি বললাম? Total body water percentage, distribution, compartments, how they are regulated, what are the factors that affect the electrolyte and water distribution, hypothalamic regulation and hormonal regulation, and what are the conditions of hyponatremia, hypernatremia, hypokalemia, hyperkalemia, everything, and then the regulatory pathways, and finally the disorders of water and electrolyte imbalance, that is dehydration and overhydration. বোঝা গেছে?